Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 979. Joy of Life. The traditions in the southern continent are really different from ours. Audrey looked down at the feathered cap in the gift box as she marveled. But it's in line with my taste. The latter half of her sentence was partially genuine and partially out of politeness. On the one hand, she found the processed feather akin to a piece of artwork, and on the other hand, she found its style too obvious and extreme. It wasn't something she would use as an accessory. This was akin to how others would have their interest piqued by items with unique and mysterious patterns when visiting ancient ruins. They would be filled with praise over it, but they would seldom purchase similar items to place it at home or use it as an accessory. Klein smiled in response. There are also many stark differences amongst the southern continent traditions. It's almost completely different in East Balam from the highlands and river valley. Of course, they also have their similarities, such as their adoration of gold. They believe that this metal possesses magical powers. As he said that, he pointed at the feather in Audrey's hand. Legend has it that people who wear such accessories would receive the blessings of the feathered serpent, or in other words, death. He was hinting to Audrey about how she could use the feather. As a sequence 6 of the spectator pathway, Audrey easily read in between the lines. She understood that the hat accessory allowed her to receive a response from the so-called death at critical moments, bringing about certain effects. As for how she should use it, it was basic knowledge and mysticism. Audrey had a solid foundation and didn't require Mr. Dwayne Dantes to explain in detail. She faintly smiled without revealing her teeth and said, "I really like it. I will attach it to my hat in appropriate situations." Not bad. It's so easy talking to spectators. Klein returned with a smile and pointed at the door. I still have presents to hand out. You will be the most welcome person here today, Audrey replied with a smile, a euphemistic way of expressing her gratitude. Meanwhile, she was a little vexed. She was hesitant about finding an opportunity to inform Mr. World, who had been embroiled in quarrel and suicide, about Vin Rambus. He had shown some deep interest and importance on the matter. Oh, it's almost Monday. I'll leave it until the tarot gathering. It will be much easier to communicate when the time comes. I can also seek advice from Mr. Hangman and Ma'am Hermit on how to deal with my current situation, especially the problem of being wary against the cues and hypnotism from a high-sequence beyonder. After all, I can't always pray to Mr. Fool ahead of time to receive an angel's blessing. On careful thought, such a form of hypnotism is truly terrifying. Carrying out instructions without realizing it. Audrey's mind was awash with thoughts as they bubbled. This made her suspect that many people in Backland's high society had been hypnotized, acting in ways that violated their true intentions and will. In addition, she also came to realize something. Every time her parents attended Mass at St. Samuel Cathedral, the one in charge of the rites was definitely Backland's archbishop. And to hold such a post, he was definitely a demigod of the Church of Evernight. At times, His Grace will even visit in person to chat with us. This is to prevent such matters from happening? That's why Vin Rambus's hypnosis effect on me didn't go overboard. Audrey watched as Dwayne Dantes left her office. After closing the door and sitting down at her desk, she picked up a fountain pen and mindlessly scribbled on it. After she reined in her thoughts, the piece of white paper was filled with interlocking circles. There was a face with cold eyes and scattered lines. At a glance, Audrey tensed up. She immediately used her spirituality and the friction between items to ignite the paper, turning it to ashes. Her random drawing had, in a sense, reflected her true emotions and thoughts. And to a good psychiatrist, interpreting such pictures was a basic skill. Therefore, Audrey hadn't left any traces behind. After a while, Klein delivered all his gifts and chatted with a few directors along the way. Finally, he entered a room meant for part-time directors like him to rest. He found a pen and paper, sat on the sofa, and began writing after some thought. Dear Mr. Isaac. While in the southern continent, Klein had written about Adam's obtaining of 0-08, his successful revenge on Ins Zangwill with the help of Leonard and Daly. He then summoned the messenger via the copper whistle and sent it to the sleeping Mr. Azek. Without a doubt, he had yet to receive a reply to date. Klein wasn't worried about mentioning Adam and 0-08 in the letter, because the angel of imagination definitely knew about his relationship with Mr. Azek. And sharing matters he encountered with someone familiar wouldn't garner any excessive reaction. This time, Klein's letter didn't involve anything extraordinary. With a smile and gentle scribble, he shared the details about the Bursary Foundation which he learned from Audrey and the other directors. At the end of the letter he wrote, "This is a really meaningful matter. I feel satisfied and happy about it. Mr. Azek, would you feel the same? When you awaken, perhaps you can attempt to do something similar. Every time you revive, you would be able to see the children who had received your help in the past. When that happens, although you might not remember them, they will definitely remember you." After finishing the letter and putting down the fountain pen, Klein carefully read it once, and after confirming that there weren't any problems, he blew the copper whistle, summoned the skeleton messenger, and allowed it to take the letter away. Following that, he left the Lone Charity Bursary Foundation with his valet, Anthony. He came to the nearby St. Samuel Cathedral and silently prayed for 15 minutes in the serene and dark prayer hall. Like before, Klein came to the donation box and threw a stack of cash in, a total of £80. Taking this opportunity, he found Bishop Electra and had a chat with him and listened to his sermon. This also announced to the Church of Dwayne Dantes' return. As for presents, Klein didn't directly give it since he was inside the goddess's cathedral. Instead, Butler Walter would naturally deliver his gifts to the bishop's residences in private. At tea time in the afternoon, Klein followed his schedule and left 160 Barrio Clun Street and headed to Dr. Aaron's for a visit. Richardson had already informed them in the morning and had received permission to visit. This time, Klein not only met Dr. Aaron Series, but he also met his wife, Wilma Gladys, as well as the newborn and his elder brothers and sisters who were a few years older. "What a pity that I wasn't able to participate in Klein deliberated, paused, and successfully waited for Wilma Gladys to reply, "Will," with a smile. He reorganized his words and said, "Unfortunately, I was unable to participate in Will's birthday party because of my trip to East Balham. This is an amulet that's rather popular over there. It brings children good luck." As he said that, he handed the golden accessory to Dr. Aaron. Aaron Series wasn't a man who was good with words. He accepted it without declining it and nodded. "Thank you." Following that, he held the string and hung the golden amulet into the pram beside him. Shaking it, he asked, "Will, do you like it?" Wrapped in silver silk, the chubby baby raised his arm, swung it, and flicked the golden amulet away. Flicked away. The mood instantly turned a little awkward in the activity room. Klein chuckled and broke the silence. "This is a reaction all kids have." At this moment, a maid had delivered the 3-layered tray for high tea, allowing the hosts and the guests to switch topics of conversation, allowing the mood to return to normal. As Klein drank his black tea and ate the pastry, he began talking about all kinds of interesting customs in East and West Balham. It left the couple and their 2 other children intrigued as they would question him from time to time. During this process, Klein suddenly turned to face the pram and asked with a smile, "You don't seem to enjoy my present?" As he spoke, nothing abnormal happened to the couple and the rest of the people in the activity room as they continued wearing attentive looks. In the illusion Klein created, he hadn't finished his recount. Will Ossepton, who had fleshy arms, scoffed as he said with a childlike voice, "What's the point in having such gifts? You might as well give me water. At the very least, that can be drunk." Klein smiled as he shook his head and said, "I have some news for you. Ouroboros was injured by a particular person and will likely not be able to continue seeking you out for the time being." He didn't dare mention Adam's name or title. He didn't even think about it, afraid that the leader of the Twilight Hermit Order would notice it, thus discovering Snake of Fate Will Ossepton's location. As for a description like Amon's brother, Klein had temporarily avoided using it. He had no idea if Amon was still in Backland and if the frequent mention of the Angel of Time's name would result in a crossing of fate. However, Klein believed that the Snake of Fate was likely to guess who had injured the Angel of Fate. This was because the only ones who remained active in the real world and were of a higher level than Ouroboros were limited to Amon and Adam. He had used the words, particular person, to eliminate the possibility of the assumption of the besieging of several angels or the use of Grade 0 sealed artifacts. Will Septon fell silent for a moment and said, I did tell you that the deviation in your fate is a good thing in the long term. After exchanging information, Klein was about to dispel the illusion when he suddenly heard Will Septon quip, Oh, I suddenly have a craving for water, especially if it's iced. Such beverages aren't good for a baby. Klein wore a serious look as he dispelled the illusion, reaching out his hand to receive the cup of ice cream a maid had delivered. Then, under Aaron's and Wilma's watch, he scooped some ice cream with the silver spoon and teased the baby with a smile. Will, do you want some? Do you want some? Ma'am Wilma immediately chuckled. Our Will doesn't enjoy that. Just as she said that, Klein stuffed the spoon of ice cream into his mouth. Wah! The baby in the pram immediately let out a loud cry.